They've got the power, the drive, and a story like you've never seen before. Welcome to Hidden Stats, the show where we take the mask off our favorite icons to uncover the human truths hidden beneath the surface. I'm your host, Malcolm Sherrod, and today we're tapping into the Morphin Grid. We're joined by a guest who's documented the legendary journey of the world's most famous teenagers with attitude. He's the author of the new book, Morphinominal, How the Power Rangers Conquered the World. Joshua, you've got the power on your side today. Welcome to the show. Tell the listeners who you are and plug that book like the fate of the world depends on it.
Appreciate you having me, Malcolm.
No problem, man.
Yeah, like Malcolm said, my name's Josh Moore. Joshua Moore, at least, I guess, as far as the title on the book. My book is Morphinominal, How the Power Rangers Conquered the World. It's actually, we're coming up on the year anniversary of its release, technically. I think it was May 15th of last year, maybe May 5th of last year, something thereabouts.
Yeah,
so we're approaching the year at the time of recording. We're approaching the year anniversary, and it's been quite a journey. It's something that I just really had wanted to do for a long time, write a book in general, but this is something, a franchise I love. Power Rangers is, if we're talking about, the nerdy, geeky things we're into, that it's the thing that's been my constant, it's been my number one ride or die, the thing that from the time that I had memories, Power Rangers has been there. There's been other things that have come along that I love just as much or, a little less maybe. But Power Rangers is the one that's been there forever, and I never let go of it. And so I felt like this is a book that needed to be written, and I was lucky enough to, worked at it and got an agent and got someone who believed in it and a publisher that believed in it and was able to put it out into the world. And that's something I think is I'm proud of it. And I think it's anybody who's a fan of Power Rangers or interested in TV history or the history of children's television especially, but even just TV in general, I think there's something there for you. So you can buy it at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, any of the, online retailers that are out there, you purchase it through them. But I'd encourage people, if you want to avoid Amazon or whatever, bookshop.org is a site you can use to order it, and it can support a local bookseller. Somebody, if you have a local bookstore, you can kind of designate it when you go to order through Bookshop to send those funds that direction. And you can also go, if you have a local bookstore or a local comic book store that you're passionate about or that you frequent, you can ask them to order it and place a direct order through the publisher. That's something that's an option. You can ask about it. They should be able to do that. I'm not going to guarantee they can, but I think most local bookstores could do that for you if you want to. So, and also ask your library. People ask that sometimes, like, oh, if I, my library, if it's like you're losing royalties or whatever, it's like, well, the library pays it. The library's buying a copy or two, and that's a big thing. And for me, I would love to make a lot of money off this book, but it's not something, I don't go into it with that expectation. Or I didn't go into it with that expectation, I should say. And it's something that, the reward is the fact for me that it exists. And I want it to, I want to do well enough for me to be able to write another book someday. But it's something that, for me, if it's the only one, then I'm incredibly proud of it, and I'm happy that it exists.
Cool. So you would say Mighty Morphin is your favorite of the seasons?
I would not, actually.
No?
I've been there. It's been there with me. It's certainly the thing I own the most toys of and whatnot, because I've got actually, it's funny, so my toys are random, so I've got this Fisher Price Tigerzord that just sits on my shelf currently because my son likes to play with it. So it sits on my desk here beside of me a lot. It's the thing I see the most. The White Ranger, that's my favorite design, I will say. The Mighty Morphin White Ranger. I was complimenting you on your mic and your headphones and stuff, the clean kind of setup. I just love that.
Cool.
That super white, paper, or even beyond paper white, just that color has always struck me as real slick, real clean, cool color. And the White Ranger, the Mighty Morphin White Ranger, has always been my favorite design. And so I've got more of that Ranger merchandise than anything probably. But actually my favorite season is Time Force. That's the one. That's the one that I sort of revisit the most and I think it's because I remember it as the season that it was a formative time for me. I was 10, for most of the year when it premiered. So that was kind of the first year I remember thinking about media a lot and understanding more about what I was watching. It wasn't just that I was watching something I liked, that I would think about it and see how the world was affecting it and whatnot. So, but also I just think it's a really strong season. I love all the characters in that season for the most part. Even the villains get really good character arcs and get to go through a lot of changes. The Pink Ranger, Jennifer, in that season, her actress, one, Erin Cahill, is just seems like an incredibly nice person. I've met her a few times and talked to her several
Okay,
times, and
cool.
she's really cool. But also her character in the show she's like probably, I would say, the coolest Pink Ranger that has existed. And she's like the first
Wow.
leader of the team, that really essentially the leader of the team. So I think that's a pretty empowering message for girls out
Yeah,
there.
I was
So, and then there's two Red Rangers. I mean, shoot,
yeah,
you
yeah,
got
for
one Red
sure.
Ranger, it's great. Two is even better, So
Which season was the Forever Red episode, or wasn't that like a two or three parter or something like that?
yeah, no, I wish it was just a single episode, but
Oh,
it was
dang.
so cool. It felt like a three-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wild Force. So that was in Wild Force the next season, and it's yeah, Forever Red, man, that was in game before in game.
I mean, like, I've seen clips. I haven't, like, seen the full episode, but even the clips is, like, cool enough to give you goosebumps, man. Just everybody being able to see their favorite ranger, because everybody's probably from, this era or that era, so everybody getting
Mm-hmm.
to see their rangers being able, like, to Red Rangers fight side by side. That is a pretty cool, moment. So
Oh, yeah. Well, and for people that grew up with it, and that came of age as all those shows were airing, you would have been, I was 11 when it aired, but so most people would have been probably between 9 and 13, 14. So we were the perfect age for
yeah.
that, when it originally aired, for it to be like the in game. And that's the crazy thing. Like, I remember when I watched In Game, it felt like it made me think of Forever Red. Like, that was the
Mhm.
same kind of feelings I
Really?
was getting.
Okay,
It's like, so
cool.
it was kind of cool. Like, it was like I was getting to relive that again through a more expensive major property. But
Yeah,
for
right.
me, Power Rangers was that. And yeah, man, I loved, just to throw out another couple seasons before we get going for anyone who's listening and wants to check out. Obviously, the originals, like, everybody loves the originals. That's what most people remember the most. But I'm a big fan of Turbo too.
Yeah, Turbo, I like Turbo a lot.
It started off with the movie, and then I love the original cast, the
Mhm.
Tommy, Adam, all them. But when they switch cast midway
It's like
through, and there's a
Carlos,
lot of story
TJ, and
behind that.
I forget the
Yeah, yeah,
other
but TJ
female.
is just the man. TJ is
Mhm.
one of the best Red Rangers ever.
Yeah.
Carlos, I like Carlos more in space, but he's fine in Turbo. But I love, like the dynamic, especially between TJ and Cassie and Turbo, that when they start kind of coming in, is just so cool. And then into In Space, like, is so great. Lost Galaxy, that
Yeah.
whole run from Turbo to Time Force is really, like, to me, like, that's the 5-6 years of Power Rangers to
Like,
me that is like the
golden
best
era.
for sure.
Okay, cool. I started watching some of Lost Galaxy, but I didn't finish. That's what I watched up into, and Power Rangers in Space I thought was really cool. Was it,
Mm-hmm.
Arrows? Is that what
Andros.
Andros, and the Silver Ranger that they had
Mm-hmm.
during that season as well was pretty cool. Yeah, I've been a big fan of Power Rangers, and I love the concept of, teenagers are just people in general being bestowed this power to help keep the galaxy or whoever safe. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that I've always resonated with, just like being able to have these heroes, man. And especially Mighty Morphin, you've got these group of teenagers just
Yeah.
going to high school who got to, like, get a call from Zordon and just dip off and go save the world real quick, and then come back like nothing happened.
Yeah, man, that's the core thing that makes Power Rangers different from a lot of superhero franchises. Is it's Other than the obvious, 'cause at the time it was live action and that was new.
Mhm.
That in itself differentiated it from a lot of superhero shows, especially for kids at the time. But it is just kids. It is teenagers,
Yeah.
young adults most of the time, and they don't have special powers. I mean, later on, like in the Disney era, they get, like,
Yeah.
kind of weird human powers that are, but
Mhm.
it's still part of, like, being a Power Ranger. It's not that they had that before they were Power Rangers. And so they become these heroes not through I got bit by a spider or I'm rich and can turn myself into a
Yeah.
hero. It is They're kind
Teenagers
of
with attitude.
chosen, and it's almost like they're drafted. It's a relatable thing for a lot of people. Like, people get drafted into militaries in our country, in different countries, and there's an element of instant relatability there, because it's also like it's way cooler than being drafted into the military because you get to
It-
jump into a
yeah,
dinosaur, you know,
right.
and
Get powers and stuff, man. That shoot, man, and it's like crazy just as teenagers understanding the responsibility of being rangers without wanting to blow their cover. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because now they know the duty of what it means to keep Angel, like at least the Mighty Morphins, to keep Angel Grove safe. You know, essentially the world too. But I think they contain it to Angel Grove. And I know, like you said, that they get powers later on, and like it reminded me of like the 2017 movie that once
Mm.
they got the power from the like the morphin grid or whatever, that even when they weren't morphed into their power suits, they still had like superhuman abilities, like speed and strength and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so
So
you could tell they felt they were kinda going for that a little bit. I
right,
do love that movie.
same.
I wish that movie had succeeded, you know, and because it
Yeah, I
didn't.
got all the pop figures for that movie, and I was really hoping that it succeeded as well.
Mhm. It was what I loved about that movie is we got to see, for me, it distilled what to me really Power Rangers is about is teamwork
Hmm.
and coming together with a group of people that maybe you don't see eye to eye with 100% all the time, but you're working towards a common goal and you're becoming friends through that
Yeah.
goal. And to me, it in an hour, 40 minutes, hour, 50 minutes, distilled that idea down better than anything that comics shows, any other movie has done for Power Rangers. And yeah, I just think that message, especially now, even at the time, but especially in today, in 2026 when we're recording this, is even more something that people need to see and try to
Yeah.
embrace.
Because they have that moment, like, where they're all sitting around the fire actually being vulnerable, you know, just
Hmm.
putting whatever out there about
Yeah,
themselves
laying their
that
cards on the table,
yeah,
and
yeah, and it's really like it's like that's something that you do with people that, you know, you trust, that you need to feel safe with or whatever, because, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't share their vulnerabilities with their, I guess, nemesis or whatever, you know, because then, you know, they use it against them. So, you know, the fact that they're building together, like, emotionally as a team so that, like, later on, they can be a unit as one because they have to pilot the Megazord together later on,
hmm
and that's gonna take them to be able to work together in unison. So, I think it was, like, a really nice, like, character building and as well as team building moment to, you know, having that in that movie, which was really super cool. Like, I haven't watched it in a couple of years. It makes me wanna go back and watch it, actually.
yeah, talking about it is making me more me like once we get done recording, I might go turn it
Yeah.
on and fall asleep to it because it's fun. I mean, it has its negatives. I mean, I do think a lot of the things that maybe made it fail, like some of that stuff, like they leaned really hard into that stuff. Like they really made
Mhm.
it more of a character based movie rather than
Mhm.
like I think what a lot of people might have wanted out of a Power Rangers movie, which is more action and more kind of,
Yeah.
color and explosiveness. But I really loved it. I really loved what they went for.
Same.
But I can also understand maybe why it didn't become a massive hit.
Yeah, I think maybe the writers or whomever were hoping that it was gonna get, like, maybe, like, a sequel or a trilogy or something like that, so maybe they were trying to
Hmm.
lean more into the character development in the first movie, and then, like, that, like, sets the stage for the sequel and, like, the 3rd
Go
movie and
heavy with
whatnot.
all the action later
Yeah,
on.
exactly, but I guess yeah, and it's, like, sucks because at the end of that movie with the cliffhanger of Tommy, you know, like,
Mhm.
I was
Yeah,
like, "No."
yeah, it would have been so cool. I just think I wish we could have at least gotten one sequel, and that's actually something I write about in the book that they because the movie, the way it performed, Haim Saban, the original owner who came back and he owned it by the time that movie was made, just decided to sell it and Hasbro bought it, and that changed the course of the movie because it had performed well enough between the box office, even though it wasn't like a big hit by any means at the box office,
Yeah,
but the home video sales were really good and the toy sales were really good. So they
right.
had done enough that they were
Excuse
developing the
me.
sequel and were at least going to do one. They had
Right.
saw like Dacre Montgomery, the Red Ranger, who's in Stranger Things, season two, I think at least. He had signed like he came out recently and said they had all signed 4 film deals, so they were locked in. They had
4.
these actors for 4 at least, and so they were working. They hadn't greenlit the second movie, but it was under development. The plan was to go forward and at least do one sequel, and which would have gotten us Tommy, and that probably would have, just the fact that Tommy was in the movie probably would have been
Yeah.
enough to get
Yeah.
it to do
Exactly.
well, because he's my favorite certainly of the OGs.
Yeah.
Well, if you're counting all six, my favorite of the
Yeah.
original five is Zach, but
Okay.
if you're
Cool.
counting Tommy as part of the OGs, the six, then Tommy.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean everybody loves Tommy, so.
he was a menace as the Green Ranger. I mean, being able to
Mhm.
hop into the Megazord and then like just clear them all out and then just take it back to the ground and still just put in work. It was
Mm.
wow.
He's a bad man.
Yeah, he was. All right. So getting into the first question, this is the Zord moment. We talked about a little bit of that. And if you had to pick one Power Ranger character and swap their life with the character from a completely different franchise, like swapping Tommy Oliver with Spider-Man, who would have the most chaotic yet fascinating character growth arc?
This is such an interesting question because it can vary wildly, depending on which set of heroes you pick with. And I'm sticking kind of with the OGs because that's the people that
Right.
most people understand the most and know the most. I think Billy, to me, is the character just in the show. And this is by nature because David Yost was the actor that stayed on the longest. He was there from the very first episode
Right.
and was with the show into Power Rangers Zeo.
Mm-hmm.
So he just, he was there from the start and was on the show for 4 seasons. And then he comes back and does the once and always special. And that was really awesome because, he kind of got done dirty there at the end of his original run. And so for him to come back and get to do it that way was really cool too.
Right.
But Billy, the character, undergoes because of that. He ends up kind of quietly undergoing like a lot of character development that in a show that isn't really heavy on character development, like the original
Mm-hmm.
series isn't really heavy on character development, but he kind of just naturally undergoes it by the nature of being around for so long. Because he starts off as like really nerdy guy who kind of speaks weird and people can't relate to,
Mm-hmm.
and
Like
he's
affirmative.
awkward. And yeah, affirmative, like he's pulling out words that no one has ever used outside of that show. And by the end, he, in that first scene, something I picked up on when I was doing so much research for the book, I was watching, part of research for a book like this is you get to watch the show a lot. And something I picked up on. So in the first episode, he looks at Alpha. He does. And he's like, diagnosing what Alpha
Yeah.
is, the
Yeah, I
Alpha
remember
5,
that.
the robot. In that scene, the way they stage it, he goes to a certain console in the room, and it's like kind of situated to where like the circular thing in the command center. He's like, if this is the half circle, he's like over here.
Mm-hmm.
When the command center blows up at the end of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers season 3, Billy runs. So he's over here. He runs to that same computer console. And like the guy, he was like scared, the first time he's in this room, he's kind of like not scared, but he's like kind of curious. And it's hard to imagine him being like the guy who would like sacrifice himself to save this robot that he just met.
Yeah.
And that he's throwing himself on that computer console in the final episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers season 3 to try to protect Alpha. And it's like,
Mhm.
I never noticed that. That was something I never had picked up on until I was reading the book or writing the book. And it was like, wow, like that's like such a big character growth moment that you don't pick up on as much as a kid. And now you're watching it real intently as an adult and you see something like that. And it's like hard for me not to ever think about those two things together now.
Mm.
So to answer your question, I think Billy's the most interesting character for that reason. And love to see that character arc with him as, it could be as Peter Parker, swapping with Peter Parker as Spider-Man, because that seems like a natural fit. They're both scientists. I think it would be fun to see how he would interact with all those, unique villains in Peter's life that are all, the fun thing about Peter's villains is they're all, for the most part, really closely connected to him.
Right.
That they're all friends or mentors or friends of friends or parents of friends, And I've also, that movie, like those, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are kind of top of mind for me. I've rewatched those recently and they're so good. And so that's kind of Spider-Man's on top of my mind. Peter Parker Spider-Man's on top of my mind a
I've
lot.
been listening to a book about Carnage here lately, like an audiobook. So it's actually pretty good. So it's just basically Peter Parker, and he's already married MJ. And so they're trying to figure out how to separate Carnage from Cletus or whatnot. And so when he catches word of that, then that raises his spider senses somewhat because he can tell that that's probably a recipe for disaster. You know what I mean? So he has to
Yeah,
like play close attention to what's going on and who's doing what to make sure like nothing goes awry. But of course it will.
it has to.
Yeah. Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed were masters of making things grow to gargantuan sizes. In your book, you look at the business of the show. What's the monster or biggest hurdle the production team faced that you thought there's no way this is going to win the battle?
I'm glad you asked it that way because it's a good kind of way to tell the listener if they're not familiar with the book to it is about the business of Power Rangers and the creation of Power Rangers. Like, cause some people ask me, like, is this like a season by season like recap? No, it is not that at all. It is, I write about the show and I write about
Yeah.
things that happen in the show for sure. There's a whole chapter, there's a chapter Green with Evil. All the titles of the chapters are names of episodes from throughout the series. So that's a little
Okay.
Easter egg for fans
That's cool.
that might be
Yeah.
reading. But one chapter is called Green with Evil, and it's about, the creation of, Tommy. And I talk about like that arc in the book, but a lot of it is mostly about like why they wrote it that way. The writers talk to the writers and different people who were involved with that. To answer the question, just getting the show made to begin with
Mm,
was the biggest hurdle because it was a situation. Power Rangers could have been adapted as far back as the 70s. When initially Marvel worked with Toei to create a couple of seasons of Super Sentai, which is the show that Power Rangers was adapted from for a long time,
right.
and that's in Japan. And they worked through a man named Gene Pelk. It kind of was like he was like the liaison between Marvel and Japan. He was kind of like the bridge to Japan for Marvel, and was a really pretty key figure there. And he helped kind of introduce Stan Lee to Japan, and he kind of became a celebrity over there. And that's how the Toei Spider-Man series came about, the live
Right.
action Spider-Man series over there in Japan. And then that gave way to the Super Sentai development. And
Right.
so Stan was interested in adapting Power Rangers for an American audience way back then. And along with a woman named Margaret Lesh, who becomes, fast forward, they couldn't get that worked out. She was working at Marvel at the time, and she ends up going through a couple different jobs. She ends up becoming the president of this new kids network called Fox Kids. And she's the woman. She greenlights Batman the animated series,
Wow.
X-Men the animated series. She is the most undersung person in the history of like anything
Yeah.
you
Like,
and I probably love. She
right.
is like
Yeah.
the mommy of it, So she is
Yeah.
like,
That's
and she is the
cool.
sweetest woman. She could not have been more helpful. As I was writing, I love like Margaret Lesh is a goddess. She is awesome, and
Wow.
so Haim Saban walks into her office, because they'd worked together on X-Men and a few other shows. She's like trying to figure out a way to fill out this slate for fall of 1993. And he pulls out, a tape. He's like, he had picked up the rights to Super Sentai and been trying to pitch it for like 10 years, and he'd kind of given up. She saw it and she recognized it. This was the show that her and Sand were trying to make back 15 years before.
Wow.
And she was like, let's do it. Let's
Let's
shoot a
do it.
pilot.
Yeah.
And she was the only one, she and Haim were the only ones going to bat for it until they started doing pilot testing and they were showing it to kids. And it was like, it was just going through the roof, with
Wow.
kids. Like it was like the highest scores they were ever getting from any pilot that they'd ever shown in the history of like this agency that they were using. And then it airs, and the first season of Power Rangers is like the most watched kids show ever. Like it's not even close to anything else. It's like
Wow.
ridiculous how well that first season of the show was watched by kids across America, and in bad time slots. It was airing at like 6:30 in the morning in some places, and it did not matter.
Dang.
It was
That's
just
crazy.
going through the roof. Like kids ate it up. But it's just funny. Like it's so funny to think about like it performing that well and being this monster hit. Like it was the show. Like if that show hadn't worked, Fox Kids probably wouldn't have lasted as long as it did.
Wow.
And
Really?
I mean, because X-Men was performing well, Batman was performing well. They had hits, it would have been
Yeah.
okay. But like Power Rangers, the minute Power Rangers dropped, it was their top show for the rest of their existence for most years. Like there's like one or two
Wow.
years where it wasn't like the biggest thing on their channel.
which is crazy. Because I mean, like from what I have heard from a lot of the actors, which is why they like Jason or what's his name, Austin St. John, and the few other Rangers who went in a different direction because
Oh yeah,
of the
Walter
pay.
Jones and yeah.
Walter Jones and the girl who played Trini, but
Oh yeah,
they
Tui,
wouldn't.
Tui.
They went in different directions, right? Because of the pay. It
Hmm.
wasn't really
Oh yeah, they were treated
substantial,
awfully in terms of the pay.
right?
Um, but it wasn't a union show. I mean, that was kind of the rub,
Yeah.
like from the get go, it was not a union show. And it becomes a union show I think during, I believe it's either during Lightspeed Rescue, maybe even Lost Galaxy, but I know for sure, I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure Lightspeed
Wow.
Rescue and Time Force are both Union seasons. And then Disney takes over, and so that kind of shakes things up. Wild Force might be, I'm not sure if Wild Force is. And then it becomes, well, I say union, a SAG show, like an actors union show.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it flips when Disney fully takes over. It becomes a non-union show again for actors, but then the writers are a union show, so the writers end up getting better rights. And you see that, like the writing, I will say the writing picked up towards that the end of like In Space and Lost Galaxy. Like you could see the
Okay.
writing getting better, but I think so much of that was because you had people who had been working on the show for so long that like a consistent set of people finally came together, and it was reflected in the storytelling and kind of the things they were doing. But then once you get to the Disney era, you can tell you're working with a different kind of writer than you
Hmm.
were back in the
Yeah.
original days, for sure.
Okay, cool. So, as far as the attitude check, we talk about teenagers with attitude all the time, but as adults, what does having attitude actually look like? Which ranger, in your opinion, had the best hidden stats or secret skill that helped them keep their cool when the Megazord was taking a beating?
I think for me, her character is probably the least developed because of that they left the show and they sort of abruptly. But Trini to me is like kind of the silent heart of the team in a
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
and and she just has this calm about her, like it.
yeah. I get that.
But she's like, I never feel like she's like like a wilting flower. She
Hmm.
feels like a badass, even though she never you know portrays herself as such. And then there's like
Right.
a quiet badassness there. And it's because, for me, it's like she takes care of her people, she's like very much about being there for her friends and going, not just being there, like going out of her way to help and be there and be like being brave in the face of like a really bad circumstance. I mean, early on in the season, there's an episode, or in the first season, there's a show or an episode where Billy gets stranded on a mountaintop, and like he's
Uh,
kind of he's like a putty's chasing him,
yeah.
and she hates heights. Like that's like her big character trait out of the day. She hates heights, and she climbs up there, and she just kind of, and that's like a really good it's a really simple lesson, but it's also like something that's great for kids to see is like you overcame this really difficult circumstance even though you were really scared, and
Hmm.
guess what, it worked out. And
Yeah.
maybe there's occasions where it doesn't work out. Like that's the thing, I think, if you're framing it in the sense of what does it mean to take that as an adult, sometimes you are brave and you put on a strong face and you do things and it still doesn't work out, and that's something you have to reckon with and be okay with and recognize that you did everything the way it should have been done. You
Hmm.
handled it with grace, or you handled it with bravery, or you stood up to somebody, like somebody, maybe your boss was being a dick, or maybe they weren't being dick, but maybe they said something that you just knew was like not right,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you said something and you said the right thing. You had a spine. You grew. You just saw it, cut through the BS, and had a spine, and spoke your piece. And everybody around you might be saying, "Yeah, man, like you did a good job. That was the right thing to say." And then maybe you get reprimanded for it, and that doesn't, that sucks. Like you're probably gonna, unless you're like the boss, you're
Yeah.
probably gonna face that at some point in your
Right.
life. And I've been there. I've been there at multiple places of employment. But I still had my jobs. I didn't get fired. Depending on how hard you push those buttons, that might be the consequence. But that's the thing I would say is, stick up for yourself, and stick up for other people like that. I think that's the thing, and know that it's okay even if it doesn't feel like it's okay after you've done
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. And you saying that basically taking a risk to do something that you're afraid of. in that moment, even if it doesn't work out, reminded me of a situation that I was in Monday. I've been practicing drumming and
Mm.
I've been going to classes every Wednesday. And there's a basically a recital of sorts that they hosted at the New Albany Library. And everybody who was taking those classes, whether they were practicing guitar, drumming, what have you, singing, they were able to perform for 2 minutes if they wanted to. And so I've been
That's
bouncing
cool.
back and forth on whether or not I was going to do it because my nerves were just like through the roof, you know? And so the day of, I text my instructor, like, yeah, I'll do it. Sign me up. And
Hell
so
yeah.
I get there and the room's full of just people, everybody who's going to perform. They got their family and friends and stuff like that there. So I'm super nervous. But by the time it gets to my drum class to perform, I didn't realize there was a sign up list that I had to sign up there. So, like, I spent the entire day preparing myself mentally to get up in front of all those people to perform for 2 minutes. But since I didn't sign up, I wasn't able to perform. So it's just like,
Mm.
I hyped myself up and I got myself there and I was ready to basically face a fear of mine, which is being in front of like a large group of people and being vulnerable, messing up, probably dropping the sticks or whatever, trying to keep beat and all this stuff. But, sometimes, yeah, you just got to be brave and take risk even if it doesn't work. And so since it didn't work out, but that encouraged me to make sure I cross my T's and dot my I's for the next time they have that event 6 months in the future. So that's what that reminded me of. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Yeah, and yeah, guess what? And now the next time when you go to do it the next time, it'll be easier, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I was able to experience what it was going to be like because the whole time in my head I was thinking it was going to be outside for some reason, but it was in like
Mm.
the actual basement of the library. But just seeing how it is and how it functions, and just seeing people just get up there and face their fears, even if whatever the case may be, like it just showed people demonstrate a lot of courage, and I really appreciate that about a lot of people up there. So I think that's honestly what being a Power Ranger is all about.
Heck yeah. No, for sure.
The Morphin Metaphor. Morphing is the ultimate metaphor for like power up. When you were writing Morphinominal, did you find yourself morphing your own perspective on the show compared to how you viewed it as a kid? And what's the biggest difference between your childhood nostalgia and your adult reality?
100%. I love this question because it's something when I've talked about the book, I don't get to talk about it as much with people because it's interesting. So my relationship with Power Rangers is really unique, even among like a lot of Power Rangers fans, because the thing I picked up on some years ago is it seems like for a lot, and this is probably true of a lot of fandoms, but Power Rangers is kind of weird because it really was like, or was, and I argue is a kid's property. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not like the MCU, like where it's kind of graduated into like
Mm-hmm.
something else in comic books, and those have been around, Marvel's been around for 100 years, DC's been around for 100 years. This is something that is largely a kids franchise. And so a lot of people either give it up for a while and then kind of come back to it and realize, oh, like, yeah, I love that as a kid. Then they kind of maybe
Mm-hmm.
go back and watch the newer seasons, or they like keep their fandom in the closet, like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
retreat and kind of don't want to. And I get it. Like people deal with different things and bullies and all that crap.
Right.
Like it sucks. Like people deal with that crap and it sucks. And I could have been that person. Was somebody who towards the end of, I guess it was about towards the end of middle school, I remember having friends, quote unquote friends who started like, they weren't like really assholes about it, but they were like, they kind of would pick on me a little bit for like
Mm-hmm.
liking Power Rangers. And I don't know what it was about me. Like, I
They,
just was like, you guys, fuck off. Like
right.
I
Yeah.
I don't, there was something about how I felt about it that I was just like, you're stupid for like who cares what I like.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fine. And I stayed friends with those people until I got to high school. And then by high school, I met like, so my upbringing was weird. I'm from a very small town in Kentucky. We had two middle schools, but the way that the whole county set up is until you could drive, basically, you would never meet somebody from like what we called the other side of the hill, you
That's
know?
fine.
And so I met a ton of new people
Mm-hmm.
in high school, and I still kept a few friends from my elementary and middle school days. But most of my friends in high school came from that other school, the other middle school, the other side of the county, the other side of the hill, including my wife. My wife, we met in high school, and we
Cool.
re-met later. We got reacquainted later on in life. We didn't date and get married out of high school, but we did know each other in high school and met and hung out in high school. So she was one of those people. And then but also my big friend group was like a lot of like nerdy guys. Like, and they, guess what? They all liked a bunch of stuff I never got into. Like they were all really big in the anime. Like they was like in like World of Warcraft. Like they would, I know probably way more about World of Warcraft than anybody who's never played it, just because of like all my buddies loved it, So for me, I never gave up Power Rangers, but what started to change for me, especially as I was writing the book, was how I looked at it through that, like, because a lot of people look at the show and a lot of things they like. It's not exclusive to Power Rangers, but they want it to grow up. They want it to like, why can't this be more mature? It's like, this is a kid's show, but why can't it be more mature? Like kind of like Batman has done a lot of that, various things have, the MCU is sort of like that. And the more I wrote the book or spent with the book and revisiting the show, because I kind of used to be that person too. I was never like hardcore that person, but I had those feelings for sure. And I kind of just separated that and just thought, like, I sort of asked myself, why do I need this to mature? Like, why do I feel that way? And then the 2017 movie comes along, and I think that is like the most mature version of a Power Rangers story, if we're going to use that kind of language. And even then, it's still like at its core, it's not that much deeper than the show in terms of like really the kind of stuff it's going about. And it just made me think, like, I really love the show for what it is. Why do I need it to be something it isn't? And I started kind of reassessing my engagement with a lot of things that way. I looked at it, and I thought, like, I've never thought I need a more mature Pokemon. That's something that never crossed my mind ever, but I bet it does for a lot of people, and so that's sort of the thing that's changed for me a lot, is how I look at it. Like, and now the other thing that's changed is I have a 2-year-old son, and he's starting to like, he's engaging with Power Ranger stuff. Like he likes watching the theme song and seeing the show a little bit, and he's playing with his little people Power Ranger figures, and he has a morpher. It's like, I would pull it if I didn't have to get up. He has a little morpher with little plastic coins, the Playmates version that just came out recently. And he loves it. It's one of his favorite toys. And it's like, he associates that with me. He understands, like, this is something Dada likes. And it just, I'm gonna cry thinking about, like I'm the Power Ranger guy.
Yeah, that's
and
cool, man.
He has a little people guy that kind of looks like me a little bit, and he keeps it with his Power Ranger little people. So it's like,
that's awesome. Yeah,
it's like, just warms my heart.
That's cool, man. I had Slade on the that episode and about the inner child. What's that?
My boy.
But yeah, super cool dude, man. It was really cool, like, reconnecting with him. But like, the premise of the episode was focusing on your inner child. Like, is there something back in, your childhood that you really wanted that you never got, that like you can buy today, and what would it be? Like, I can't remember what my answer was, or if I ever gave an answer. But now that you mention it, I think like one of the morphers from back then, of like having all the different coins.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, it has like the 2 buttons on the side that you press and it like opens up and lights up. Oh my God, man. I think, I don't want to say I feel robbed, but
I never had it either.
Yeah.
I never had the original Megazord either. I didn't have a Megazord. My first Megazord was the Super Zeo Megazord, the one with the shapes.
Damn.
That was the first Megazord I had. I mean, I had the Red Dragon Thunderzord from season 2, but just the dragon. I didn't have the other parts, of it.
That's pretty cool.
I don't count that one, but I do. That is one of my favorite Zords. I just think it's a cool little Zord. So, but I never had the OG. I have the newer versions of it, that have come out. I've bought different, but I've still never owned the original Megazord or the original Dragon Zord. And so those would be 2 of my things. And they're not crazy expensive now. There've been so many different versions. They kind of are cheaper now than they used to be, but I never had the original Morpher either. So those would be my things I'd like to go back and get someday.
Like, we had the Ninja Zord and like the Falcon Zord. Like, I claimed that as my like personal,
love the Falcon
because it was
Zord.
me and my like 2 brothers. I'm sorry. And like, we play with the Zords and stuff like that, but the Falcon Zord was just like mine. Like I
Mhm.
claimed that bad boy. And we had the Thunder Zord, but I think it came separate from the Red Dragon Zord, right? If I'm not mistaken, because
Yeah, they did the
yeah,
4 others in their own box, and then
yeah.
the Dragon Thunderzord was separate.
Yeah, so, like, we just had the other 4, like, Zords just playing with them. No Red Dragon Zord. And
we had to hook up together.
yeah, I
We could have
swear,
formed the Thunder Megazord.
like, was it Talladega Nights? Did we just become best friends? Like yeah, and we had the Zeo
Mhm.
Megazord as well with the shapes like you said, which was really cool. So, like, yeah, we had like a ton of like Power Ranger stuff, like the Power Ranger, the ones that like they would morph, you press their little morpher and the
Oh,
heads will
yeah,
flip.
yeah,
Yeah, we had
yeah.
a couple of
I had
them.
all
Like,
of those now. I did
yeah,
have all.
that was sick, man. That was a
That's honestly probably the coolest because of that mechanic. Like, it was
yeah,
just so
yeah,
unique. Like,
yeah. I was
those are
gonna say that's
probably
like
the
a cool concept.
probably the most iconic action figures of I would say of the 90s for
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
and maybe even close to like of all time. I mean, there's probably other ones that, but like they're in the mix.
Yeah. If I can like go back in time, I like to watch myself back then, see the commercial for the first time of them like
Mm.
flipping their heads, like you see my head explode, like what is going on? That would be so cool, man. Yeah, it was definitely legit, man. And it's like all that stuff I wanted to bring to school, to show your
Mm.
friends. Like
Mhm.
yeah. So moving on to the next question. The score to settle. You argue that the Power Rangers conquered the world. If you can give the original 1993 team one piece of advice to help them balance their secret identities with the stresses of high school, what hidden stat would you tell them to prioritize leveling up?
Yeah, it's interesting. Cause yeah, in conquering the world, that was like a point of contention. Because by the end, I wanted to do conquer Earth because
Okay.
of it's
Rita.
time to conquer Earth,
Yeah.
and like the publisher was like, I don't know if retailers understand it. Like, well, okay, I get what you're saying, but
Mm.
I still want to do it. But so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
conceded that I got a lot of. They were really great to work with on the cover and stuff. Like, I basically had a lot of control over how the
Yeah,
cover came
yeah.
out and stuff, which and not a lot of first time authors get. So I was fine conceding on the
Yeah,
title.
because looking at the cover, it really does give you those like that nostalgic feeling, you know what I mean? Like when like
Hmm.
the green and all that stuff and the Rangers on front, I'm like, geez, man, that's
Yeah, it
really
was
super
like
cool.
it looks. My idea was to like I really want to look like those old triangle, like the boxes, like that the original action figures came in,
Yeah.
and it that was hard to convey like after a while, but I finally was able to kind of get them to understand like what I was trying to preach, and they were great to work with. Bloomsbury. So the secret identity thing is so interesting, right? Because the rule, it originates from really a rule from Zordon, like no one
Hmm.
can know your Power Rangers. And that gets, kind of ignored later on, like later seasons, there's seasons where they are openly like the public, like by Lightspeed Rescue, the
Yeah.
Power Rangers are government operatives and like everybody knows their identities. But then it's interesting, like in that season, and then you flip to Time Force and their identities are secret again, even though it's the same thing. They're government operatives. Now they are also half of them are from the future, or most of them are from the future. So it kind of makes sense where they wouldn't be known.
Oh.
And then it kind of ebbs and flows. There's some seasons where they, like back to Dino Thunder, when Tommy comes back and is a mentor to the team,
Mhm.
they have secret identities there. And because it's kind of like, honestly, Dino Thunder, when I think of like people talking about Power Rangers wanting to be mature, I think Dino Thunder actually is really what they want. Dino Thunder is kind of a more mature version of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in a way,
Right. Yeah.
I love that season too. That's another one I love. Really, those first 4 or 5 Disney seasons are all really fun. The thing about the secret identity with Zordon and kind of balancing that I think for me, I'm just kind of looking at this through my some often cynical lens. I would ask them to engage with a bigger question tied to that, which is why does he want me to keep my identity secret? And I think
Hmm.
you hit it early on, like they inherently kind of understand like kind of the nature of being a superhero means you need to balance that identity. But I
Hmm.
also think it's interesting to think about it through that lens of even if you understand that,
Hmm.
it's kind of good to do that self-examination, that self-reflection on, okay, I understand that this is good for me, but why? Like, why? Like, to kind of just ask yourself those questions and why should I follow this rule? And really have that conversation with
Hmm.
yourself because I think we all, it's not really as much of an identity question, but I think we all sort of follow rules and conventions that we just kind
Yeah.
of just accept as
Yep.
fact. And And they are, like, in large,
Yeah.
they are for reasons, like, but it's still good to sometimes, take a step back and think, why? And it's because there's,
Yeah.
99
Yeah.
out of 100 times, you're going to say, okay, the common way we think about this is the right way. But 1 out of 100 times, you might think and step back and see, well, we maybe should be doing it a different way. And maybe it's okay to
Yeah.
let people know what we're about. And even by the second season, they end up kind of breaking the rule a little bit. They let the Adam, Aisha, and Rocky know who they are. It's
Yeah.
not, it's by
Right.
accident. They kind of get
Mm-hmm.
discovered, but then the rest of them reveal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have to do that, just because
Right.
2 members of the team got found out doesn't mean the 4. But I also think there's a
Yeah.
lesson in that, which is you guys got found out by these 3. We're not going to keep ourselves hidden. We're going to also reveal. Like, that speaks to, like, the team, like,
Yeah.
we all,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
2 screwed up. We're going to screw up with you. I think there's kind of a power in that too. Like,
Yeah.
you're,
Like the all for one and one for all, basically.
yeah.
Yeah. And that reminds me of what you were saying earlier about, like, say if you're at work and say your manager says or does something that you don't approve of, and everybody else just accepts it, just goes along with the flow, but you're that person who questions, like, why do we need to do X, Y, and Z? And then you might get a slap on the wrist or whatever for you going against the grain. But still, like, I think, like you said, sometimes you just need to take a step back and question things and ask why. And I've done that at work as well. So she kind of like snapped back because she was like, because I said so. I'm like,
Yeah.
I realized that,
And
but
sometimes you have to just accept that and move
hmm
on. But every now and then you'll get a win. And
yeah, exactly. My brain just works like that. When it sees a problem, it kind of like analyzes it and then tries to come up with a better way to suggest going about whatever moving forward. But sometimes you just get that snapback, that people just want everything to function a certain way, kind of like Miles Morales and Into the Spider-Verse. He's an anomaly, you know what I mean, going against the
yeah.
grain of the Spider Society. And they're trying to convince him to let everything flow a certain way, even like sacrificing his dad, essentially. And he's just like, everybody's trying to tell me how my story's going to go. And then he's like, nah, I'm going to do my own thing. So sometimes you got to be the Miles Morales of your world, man, of your story. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I love Miles as a character. I think it's so fun.
right.
It's it's a different way to tell the Spider-Man story, and it's so cool that
Yeah.
they can use that motif and have a completely different character. I just think it's so fun. Like, it's really,
Right.
really fun. Those movies are great. I'd like to go read the comics, like, some of his comics at some point,
Same.
because
Same. I think what it started with, like, Ultimate Spider-Man, or I think he was in the
that sounds
Ultimate
right.
Spider-Man
Yeah, I think he
series.
originated from that.
Yeah, because I think that ended up with the whole Beyonder when he had all the different superheroes from different worlds fight each other until they all like, condensed it down to like the world, and that whatever was left over was the canon from then on out. Which I wonder if that's what they're doing right now, especially.
Yeah, possibly.
So, but I do like Miles Morales as a character and what he represents, and he's actually what I got planned for one of my episodes to just talk about all the stuff that
Fun.
I was just mentioning not too long ago, just for those people who feel like they're the anomaly. You know what I mean? The people who feel like they've always not necessarily gone against the grain, but maybe feel like they didn't fit in to whatever society, even if these people look like them. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are like them, and it's okay. They were trying to convince him that the spider that bit him wasn't meant for him, but I argue that it was. You know what I mean? So,
It's how it happened.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because why would it bite him? Especially when, if you understand the whole concept of each spider person, they're chosen. He had to be chosen in the sense. So, like, that spider was the anomaly that went against the grain that bit him. And so now carrying that responsibility,
Yep.
which is
I'm excited, man. I can't wait for that next movie.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah,
Talk about
it's,
cliffhangers.
yeah, man, gosh, man, because it was. I think it was supposed to be out by what, like a year or so ago or something like that. But I think there
Yeah, I
was
believe the
maybe
original
like
plan, was last year.
yeah.
That
But
was
I
always
think
ambitious. That always seems
yeah,
crazy.
and that's another thing about that series is that the art of those movies it's just like everybody has their own art style, whether it's Gwen
It's so cool.
Stacy, Miles, even like Spider-Man of 99 I think it is. It shows just how imperfect or how there's beauty in the imperfections of things, because you have just like the lines that are just like overlapping one another, something that's just like constantly moving in the background, and it's just yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to focus on as well. It's just like there's beauty in imperfection. So like if you got like some lines that like meet each other and whatnot, like yeah, it works, but it just kind of seems a little boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
I
cool
love
to
that.
stand out, I'm trying to say. But so last question, the team up. We love a good crossover. If you were producing a movie and you had to assemble a team of the most relatable heroes like Kratos, Miles Morales, or a ranger of your choice, who is the leader and what is the character trait that makes them all click together?
Yeah, this is a fun question. I like relatable as a theme because that kind of it makes it hard in some ways because for to
Yeah.
in terms of a unifying force. So I'll start with Peter Parker, Spider Man, just because I feel like to
Yeah.
me across all of superheroes, I feel like he is probably the most relatable superhero for so many people.
Yeah.
It's just like you're kind of a you're not an ugly person, but you're kind of like an average guy.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're a nerd. I mean, that ebbs and flows depending on which version, but
Hmm.
you're kind of just an average guy. You get bit by this spider, and all of a sudden basically you're going through puberty. That's sort of the
Yeah.
metaphor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
everybody experiences that change in their life, and everybody has loved ones that die, and people that inspire them and influence them, and people they love that they fight for. And Peter just checks every box
Yeah,
for
man.
and he's just so well known
Yeah.
as Spider-Man. It seems like, and then I mean, if going from there, I don't know about relatable, but just because I love this franchise and it doesn't get enough love, I think I would throw in Clank from Ratchet and Clank, the little robot from Ratchet and
Yeah.
Clank,
Yeah, that's
because
cool. I like that.
one, because he kind of, I think he can fit into pretty much any team. He's small,
Yeah.
he doesn't take up a lot of space in the jet or the
Yeah.
ATV,
He
whatever
can
you need to ride into into battle.
help you break in whatever door or facility by,
Yeah,
cracking the
he gets
code and
into
stuff like that. Yeah, that's
hidden
cool.
passages. And he's also, I mean, he's a nice, I think he's sort of I guess he's kind of like a blend of Groot and Rocket Raccoon a little bit,
Hmm.
together, kind
Yeah.
of in one character. He's kind of got that, can kind of be a jerk, but, he's mostly just kind of a nice, lovable character who I think would fit into most places. If we're going to keep it to a threesome and the last one needs to be a Power Ranger, I'll go with the GOAT, Tommy. We'll, have him, it's hard to, no, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to go with Zach, the original
Okay.
Black
Yeah.
Ranger. 'Cause I think he fits into this group pretty well.
Yeah.
I think he
Yeah,
would
because
be,
I was gonna say I could see like him doing something and then Peter being like, wow, he's so cool. Then follows him and then goes to help do whatever. I was like, I can see
and
that.
Clank
That's
would just be
cool.
rolling his eyes, kind
Yeah.
of on the side,
Yeah.
I feel like I need a woman. I hate not having a female presence in this
Yeah.
roster. So I'll go with, for my four, I'll add a fourth. Let's see. I'm just trying to go with something a little different. I'll roll with, I'm gonna throw in not a hero. I'm gonna throw in Jesse from Pokemon, the Team
Oh,
Rocket.
cool.
Throw a little villain, trying to reform herself
Yeah.
into
Okay.
this mix. And I
That's
feel like
cool.
she would, because she's kind of, I think there's some heroine in there in her
Hmm.
character, kind of baked underneath there that I think this group
Yeah.
can pull out, kind of do a little bit of a Suicide Squad kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I mean, they've always had their moments like where they've actually like what helped Ash and Brock and
Yeah.
Misty and all that stuff or whatever. So I mean, they've shown that they have the capacity to be good people, but I think they honestly are good people, but they just work for Team Rocket, who
Mhm.
just wants them to, carry out these specific duties of stealing all these Pokemon. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what I feel like exactly. But I do like that team up though. That sounds like a cool team up.
And I think the leader, I mean, I would go, I'm the Power Rangers guy, so I'm going to say Zach needs to be the leader because
Yeah, yeah,
he's probably of these four, probably the most confident, I would say, of the four.
yeah.
Maybe Jesse. Jesse might also be pretty confident, I would say. But of the four, I would say I would probably put him in that position. And I think just the trait, thinking of the trait that maybe links them all. I mean, they're probably all, maybe not Zach as much, but I think there's a degree of being underestimated probably
Hmm.
there that
Oh
kind of
yeah,
would unify all of them in their situations. And I think that can be a very empowering thing if you get a lot of people who feel like they're underestimated put
oh
together in
yeah,
one group.
yeah. Because I mean, Especially, I think Peter, man. I think just even Spider-Man is underestimated amongst
Mm-hmm.
his villains and whatnot. They really don't know how much of his power he's withholding from
Mm-hmm.
them. The superior Spider-Man, well, Doc Ock switched bodies with Peter, and he became this superior Spider-Man, and he went to go fight the Scorpion. And as he goes to punch him in the jaw, his jaw comes off, and then in that moment, he
Mm.
realized, like, oh, he's really been toying with us, or like making sure he doesn't like do this to one of us. So he's definitely underestimated. Even Peter Parker, especially with the Flash bullying him in any universe. I guess that's the constant that needs to happen, or the canon that needs to happen in every universe. There always has to be a Flash that bullies, Peter Parker. But he has no idea who he really is, and which is really cool. And that's like the responsibility that he carries out. That's like basically like a Power Ranger, just really having to keep your identity safe
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. So sometimes if you got to take a beating by a Flash just to keep your identity safe, to keep the people around you safe by, your enemies not knowing who you really are, then sometimes you just got to take one for the team.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to take the punches, even if you know it's not, for you, for yourself, it's not the right thing, but it
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
for other people.
Which like I get really into like just different characters and still am really interested in Spider-Man. But apparently like if any like say one of us were to hit him anywhere, we probably break our wrist or like our forearms and all that stuff because he's like super like dense as far as his muscle structure
Mm,
and whatnot. And
that
honestly, he
makes sense.
barely would feel it. And so it's like when he's like web swinging, say if he puts somebody over his back and he's swinging them through the city, he probably would barely feel you on his back, like because he's just that strong, being able to lift up to like 20 tons. So, dude's crazy strong, which is crazy, and just so humble, which is so cool. You know what I mean? And they
Oh,
said that
yeah.
like once he stops joking that and when he gets serious that's when like everybody should be afraid of like Peter
Hmm.
Parker and whatnot, which is cool to also think about as well.
Yeah, for sure. That humility part is like I mentioned, I watched the Raimi movies recently, or the first two recently. And that's the thing that struck me is, it's so interesting, those movies. I think the biggest thing, and it speaks to sort of the underestimation thing too. Peter is kind of it's weird. He's on screen most of the movie, but he's often feels like the least important character in any scene that he's in often,
Hmm.
or like the character that he's like the butt of the joke most of the movie for most of the
Yeah.
time, he's on screen a lot of times, or he's at least being positioned that way. And it makes for just that humility comes through
Hmm.
really strongly, and it is a big part of why I think those movies hold up as well as they do. They're
Yeah.
so good. I know the third one's kind of a little more mixed for people. I haven't rewatched it
Right.
yet, but especially those first two are just such a
Yeah.
raw, good portrayal
Yeah.
of what Spider-Man really is.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, and it's so cool, man, when he stops that speeding subway with,
Oh,
shooting
man.
the webs and stuff like that. And even once he passes out and he has his mask off and everybody like carries him through the train, it's like such a like a powerful moment, you know what I mean? Just and it's silent as they're just like carrying him to lay him down safely. Once he comes to and he realizes he doesn't have his mask on, everybody's like, no, you're good. Trust us. We won't
Yeah,
tell
we're cool.
anybody what happened. And that's just like, and that is moments like that that gives you faith in humanity again.
Hmm.
And I don't know if he's ever lost that at any point. I'm sure he has in some story or another, but moments like that, it's like, okay, this is what I do this for. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So I like
100%.
that moment.
No, it's so good. Yeah, it's just so touching for sure.
Oh yeah, and that fight scene was just amazing. Like the transition from when he's swinging up to meet up with Doc Ock to like seeing him in his sunglasses. That was cool, man. That was such a cool transition. And then they just go to square up, which is so cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Um,
Sam Raimi. Sam
yeah.
Raimi's a hell of a director.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I appreciate that work, man, for sure. So, how do you feel about the third movie, the Spider-Man 3? Are you hit or
It's been
miss?
so I've only seen it once. I was in high school when it came out, and I
Same.
watched it then, and I can't. I remember scenes from it. Like I remember the dancing thing is probably the thing I remember the most. So I want to rewatch it soon. I kind of accidentally rewatched the first one because it was one of
Hmm.
those nights where the son, he didn't want to. He kept waking up and wouldn't go to
Hmm.
bed, and so we were kind of dealing with that. So I just stayed up and watched, it was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. I couldn't go back to sleep. And so I just stayed up and watched Spider-Man. It just kind of happened by accident.
Yeah.
And so then that spurred me like a week later, I watched the second one. And so sometime it'll probably be this week, I'll watch the third one again, just because I do want to watch it again and revisit it now since I've done it with the last two. And so I'll get, I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay. Yeah. Because I feel bad that I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but since it got so much hate, I think a lot of people didn't go back to watch it, even if they enjoyed parts of it because of the hate that it received. So they feel like they had to like follow suit, if that
Yeah. Oh
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think that maybe like you said, I should go back and watch it as well, just to really give the adult me a good chance to actually analyze the movie to see how I
Hmm.
feel about it today. You said you liked the 2017 Power Rangers movie?
Yeah, yeah, oh, I love it.
Okay, yeah.
It's to me, there's not much. I don't think I would change much, if anything, about it. I mean, I think you probably could have done more, had like the suits, be on screen a little bit more. I think that would have helped it for some people. I
Mhm,
also think I like the designs, but I do think there's part of me that thinks if they just leaned into making them look more like the original suits,
mhm.
that might have
You
also done a lot to help people. Because I actually like
yeah.
those designs, but I get like they are
Yeah,
weird, like they are quite
right.
different from what you
Yeah,
expect.
exactly.
So, and I don't love the Zords. I will say I think they
Yeah,
kind of screwed up the Zord
right.
thing, but
Yeah. It didn't make sense that the Triceratops and the Mastodon had, like, what, 6
8
or
legs.
legs? Yeah,
Like
8 legs. I couldn't wrap my head around
I
that,
mean, I
you
think
know?
there was something there about them being like aliens, and there's some line at some point where they talk about like they took on the strongest form or whatever at the time when they
Mhm.
landed, and so that would have been like the dinosaurs, or something. But like it's
Right.
such a throwaway line, and you're kind of like you also have to kind of piece that together in your head if you're not paying that much
Mhm.
attention. And so it's weird. It was a weird choice, but
Right, yeah. Yeah. I would say that's the only thing I disliked about the well, okay, the Godar.
oh, Godard was kind of garbage too. Like that seemed like we had to cut the budget somewhere, and so
Yeah,
that's
right.
where it happened.
I mean, because I think if I would've, like, salvaged it or something like that, say in the second movie or the sequel, I would've, like, had whatever Goldar's species is pop up somewhere or whatever, it can be a repet or whatever, but then she make my monsters grow, she suits him with the gold that she had
Mm,
left over from that remaining fight, and then he becomes her right-hand flying monkey, essentially,
mhm.
or he could have been alongside with her, like that weird, cute, quirky animal. I don't know if you've seen the Predator, Badlands movie or not yet.
I haven't. I've
Okay,
got a friend who loves those movies, so that I need to
yeah,
that he gets on
I
me.
think it's legit, man. But
I'll check
yeah,
it.
it could have been a little cute little pet. Like it was her Hail Mary to suit him with some armor and
Mm,
make him into whatever to fight the Rangers, and then that could have been him moving forward. That once he was defeated, he never really reverted back to his original form, but he still had like gold or whatnot, like they're probably infused into his skin and
that could
whatnot.
have
So
been
that could have
fun.
been Goldar moving forward. That's what I would have probably done. But yeah, I do. I love Power Rangers. I've had this shirt for a few years. I
Yeah,
have
who's your
like the
favorite?
my favorite. I love Zeo. Like I love
Okay.
Zeo. I love the Gold Ranger. I thought he's Jason coming back was a whole dope
Yeah, that was
concept.
so cool.
And the crazy thing is how, for one, the Zeo crystals. I don't know if I'm sure you're aware, but there's some talk about the Zeo crystals are the Zeo powers are the most powerful versions of
Mhm.
the
Yeah, they're
Rangers.
supposed to like always be evolving or something. That's sort of like
Right,
there's a
right.
line.
Yeah, and Jason basically had to give up the power because as just one human, he wasn't
Mhm.
able to withstand the powers of like was it the Gold Rangers? He had to give it up, otherwise it's probably going to kill him. So, which that was like kind of like a dark twist on it too, as well. But
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
um,
like that the implication there too is like maybe the gold Zeo crystal is further along or older than the rest of them, and so like eventually like that would be true of all of the Zeo crystals
yeah,
probably. Like, the red one eventually would you would have to share it to
yeah, yeah.
you know
And I think that's why they basically switched to Zio. Well, I guess behind the scenes kind of like, story or whatever. But I loved the Turbo movie. I thought, like, when we went to go see that movie in
Mm,
theaters, man, that was like I was enamored, bro. Even, like, when they were finally getting into their Megazords to transform and, like, the theme song was playing, that was
mm.
it for me, man. Like, it was so cool, and
It is
Jason and Kimberly coming back.
it is a fun, silly movie, and I will say, I think most people think the first movie is the best because of nostalgia, and that's great.
Mhm.
Like, I love the first movie. I love all the movies.
Yeah.
I actually think if you're just like, if you ask me, which is the best Power Rangers movie? Like, what movie? Like, I think the 2017 is like the best movie. I
Mhm.
think 95 is the best movie if you're looking at it through like just pure nostalgia. I actually think like for what Power Rangers is on TV, if you're just saying like, okay, what's the best movie that basically reflects what Power Rangers is most of the time? The Turbo movie is the
Yeah.
true like
It was cool. Yeah.
like this is the real example of what Power Rangers is
Mhm.
most of the time. And so they're all
Yeah.
fun. Like all three movies are very different. And I think that makes them they're all really unique in that respect. Like they're all
Yeah.
it kind of reveal different things about what the show is ultimately about.
Right. And it's still they all still have that Power Rangers essence, like,
Mhm.
in just, like, different forms, and that's what's so cool about it, man. And, like, going back to Turbo, even, like, having, like, a new, Blue Ranger as a kid, but whenever, like, he suits up, he morphs into, like, an
Mhm.
adult size, ranger, which is, like, cool. So, yeah, I have so much nostalgia when it comes to Power Rangers, and it really will always hold a special place in my heart, like, no matter what people say or feel about it, and I honestly, like you said, I think a lot of people are closeted Power Rangers fans,
Mhm.
and I made, like, a post about that, like, about a month or so ago, calling that a fake fan when people would try to do the morphin sequence, but act like they forgot which order the morphin sequence went in. They try to like switch up the the swords and stuff
Uh,
like that. And it's like, bro, you were sitting down there every day watching the Power Rangers like we were, like just yelling it at the top of your lungs, which the correct sequence. So don't act like you don't know what it is, man. Just to be cool. Like that's a fake fan in my opinion.
I do think I will say on that point, I do think that's something we're getting away from. I hope, I don't talk to a lot of, I don't talk to any 12-year-old kids, but I do think just the nature of how media sort of disseminates and just how much nerd culture and geeky stuff is kind of, it's weird because I grew up, and you, I mean, you too, we grew up
Hmm.
in a time where I think that stuff it was starting to change. But like I had teachers, I remember I had a really influential teacher in high school who, he was like a not like a closeted nerd, but he like it was he grew up in a time where that stuff was like Star Wars and D&D and
Hmm.
comics was all really looked on like as like, oh, you're the weirdos. Like wow,
Yeah.
like you're on the side. And by the time I was in high school, that was starting to change a bit. Like
Hmm.
all the, and I'm from a small high school. It's a kind of a unique situation, but like you kind of, for at least for me, a lot of people like the same stuff. Like, the nerds and the jocks, we were all playing Pokemon. Like it was kind of like everybody kind of was doing
Excuse
a
me.
lot of the same interest. And now I think that's even more true. Like probably every boy that's in middle school is playing Fortnite now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and that's sort of that kind of crushing together of all culture
Hmm.
has made hopefully remove some of those barriers for kids and young people
Yeah.
who might feel ashamed of the things they like because I think everything's just kind of for everybody now, which is great. I mean,
Yeah, I hope so as well because I mean, it's nothing worse than like having something that you're passionate about and being ashamed to be able to like,
Mhm.
wear it proudly, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then
You
and
only
that
get to
goes
live so long. You might as
yeah,
well.
man, exactly. And it's like you said, you only get to live so long. So why not, man? So is there anything else you would like to add to? Any like cool fun facts about Power Rangers that you like to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I will say we're at an interesting time for people if you're listening to this and wondering this show lasted 30 years because that's like my book covers the 30-year history of the show. Like it lasted 30
Hmm.
years, the show and movies and various things. And there's still new comics in production, but the show has been out of production for a few years. It's the longest time that there's been without new Power Rangers episodes.
Oh,
Like it is crazy.
yeah.
It is a really unique
Wow.
kids show in that respect. And there is currently in development a new Disney. It's Hasbro owns the property
Right.
and it's in development, but the show will ultimately, assuming it kind of all gets ordered and gets pushed into production,
Right.
will end up being on Disney Plus, which is cool. It's kind of a unique
Yeah.
history there with Disney and Power Rangers, but it's being developed by the people who are doing the Percy Jackson show, which is like a pretty big show for Disney Plus. Like that's kind of like
Yeah.
their biggest hit outside of the Marvel stuff.
Wow.
And so it'll be interesting to see how that comes together because it'll be kind of, if you're someone who's maybe like, oh, I want to get into Power Rangers, I would encourage you to do that and go watch some of the shows. All the stuff's on Tubi, like you can watch every season on Tubi.
Cool.
But also like keep an eye out for that because that could be like a good like starting point too, like for like, kind of a different, it'll be different. It'll be much different than from what Power Rangers has been, for all of my life. But
Yeah.
I think it'll be different in a way that could be inviting to new people. I would say
Okay,
that.
cool. Did you see that the Ninja Kids like had their own version like in production, but Hasbro had them like they
Yeah,
didn't want like the competition, so
that was
they
a
made them.
that was a
Yeah.
weird situation. Like that was handled very oddly. I don't know a whole lot about what was going on behind the scenes there, but it just seemed like that whole thing got kind of came out weird. Like there was a lot of weird stuff going on around that, and I almost think I don't know. I kind of think that will come out at some point, the Ninja Kids thing,
Yeah.
but it'll be kind of more under the radar once it
Yeah.
drops, than it would have been.
For them, I genuinely hope it does because the amount
Yeah, it's
of
a lot.
work and effort that
Mm-hmm.
they put into
Mm-hmm.
it, only for it to be like, like a cease and desist or whatever. Like honestly, it was like heartbreaking just to hear that, man. Like, cause I'm sure they put their all into it and was really
Mm-hmm.
excited for it to come out and air and whatnot, only for it to be, that rug to be pulled from underneath them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I shoot, man, I'm just gonna shout in
Yeah.
the dark if they're listening, man. Like, a shout out to you all because that was a lot of work. That's something I can't do. A lot of people probably can't do, but that's cool, man. And I hope that it comes to fruition somehow, some way.
Yeah, I was looking
So
forward to seeing it. I
I
wasn't sure I was
was,
gonna
yeah,
like it, but I was excited to watch it and check it out.
yeah,
Like that's my thing. Like I'm anymore. Like I'm a pretty good judge of my own taste a lot of times. Like
hmm,
I can typically know if something probably won't be something I enjoy going into it, but I'll give anything a shot. You know, I
yeah,
say that
for
too. I like
sure.
to leave people on that. Keep an open mind about everything in terms of media.
Right. Even like that, what the revamp of the Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin, where like Trini's daughter took her place. I forget the name of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Once and always.
Yeah, Once and Always, yeah. I even watched that, It wasn't a huge event when the 2017 movie came out, but I drug my wife, my sister, and we all went to go watch the movie, man. And I
That's
was
cool.
really excited about it, dude. Yeah. So I mean, like I
Yeah, I
said, it's
went I
always
went
gonna.
and watched that 5 times in theaters. I saw it 5 times in
Oh
theaters.
wow.
I own I own every version of that movie that came out on Blu-ray and DVD. Like, own like I probably own like 8 different Blu-rays of that movie, just from different like slip covers. I went
Yeah,
weird.
yeah,
I went all in on like collecting stuff from that movie because I was just like, I thought this
yeah.
might be it. This might be the last Power Rangers
Same,
movie. Like
same.
that was
Yeah.
kind of. I bought all the pops, like you mentioned the pops earlier.
Hmm.
I bought stuff. I bought mini pops. I've got action figures. I've got the
Wow.
Megazord still in the box sitting over here. Literally, I can see
Oh
it from where I'm
shoot.
sitting. And I don't
Dang.
even like that Zord. Like I said, I think that Zord is
Yeah,
awful.
yeah. Dang.
I own a Japanese version of the Blu-ray. Like I did some stupid stuff, man. Like
Yeah, I mean, you wanted that sequel, man.
I was doing my part. Trust me,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
doing
for
everything
sure.
I could.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like to hear that, man. That support that's awesome for real. That's cool.
Yeah, so if you just that's my credentials. I am a Power Ranger sicko.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, like I love that you're proud about it, dude, for real. Like, 'cause it inspires me to be more proud about the fact that I love it as well. You know what I mean? Like I wear this shirt out and about and stuff like that, but
Mm,
haven't really came across too many people except like I think the night that I recorded y'all's episode, I was at Kroger prior and, guy,
mm,
was asking me what my favorite Power Rangers season was and
nice.
told him Theo and all that stuff. So Yeah. So other than that,
It's
like not too many people say anything.
it reminded me when you brought up Zio a minute ago, the 30th anniversary. It's actually the 30th anniversary of that season this year. It just like its first
30.
episode premiered like literally
Holy
like
crap.
a week ago this year,
Holy
30 years
crap.
ago. So
Wow, man, that is crazy. 30
yep,
years ago.
pretty.
God, 39, by the way. But when stuff like that happens, dang, like, where did time go, man?
Yeah, I had
Jeez.
a buddy from college that we see him from time to time still. He messaged me that, and I was like, I told him, "Yep, we're old, man. Like we, I'm 35. I'm not that much further behind you." So he's the same age, I think 34, 35. Actually,
30
no, I
years.
actually think he might be a couple years older, but I always think of him as being the same age because we were in the same college like age. It's weird.
Okay.
Like it's weird how you'll go to college with somebody and think like, oh, they must be the same age as me, like, but they'll be like 2 or 3 years older.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, you brought the podcast. We have to have you back on at some point for not another 2001 movie podcast. It's a
Yeah. I still
show
have
we do.
your all schedule. Yeah, if you wanna plug that as well, like that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a show I do with Slade, who's been on your show previously. Buddy, another friend from college that I've stayed really close with, Allison. She's a woman I work with in my day job frequently. It's a great mix of people. They're both great people, really smart people, and it's a show that we just talk about movies literally from the year 2001. I say limited series, but by the end of the year, we're going to stop. The show will be over by the end of this year, but we're
Mhm.
recording. We'll probably have close to 70. I would bet close to 70 episodes, if not more than that, by the end of the year. So there'll be if you come to it late, if you're watching this video 5 years from now, like don't think just because the show ended, like there'll be plenty to watch and listen to. We're
Yeah.
on YouTube and any podcast place you can go. And Malcolm joined us for Evolution, which actually I'm sure this episode that we're recording, but for your show will come out before that Evolution episode does. But so keep your eyes peeled for
Yeah.
that. It
Yeah,
was a fun episode.
Imma have this episode out next Friday. So,
Yeah, so you'll
yeah,
be
just
out well before. So keep your eyes out for Malcolm on our
yeah. It
series. So
was
he was great.
It was fun, man. I enjoyed it. I'd probably talk my wife's ear off about it, to be honest. Like, just talking about just how fun it was. And then, like, just it was just cool because watching the movie, yeah, it's funny laughing about it then, but like as we're like reflecting on it or whatever, this part or that part and laughing about it, it was a fun time, man. Like I've been inspired, especially by the fact that y'all have everything planned out, like on a schedule, like that you all have, as well as like the script y'all write, just so well organized, and I really do appreciate that. Like for real, for real.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you for pointing that out and the compliment. That's just a credit to my anal retentiveness, I guess, because I like. It's weird in my daily life. I'm not that kind of person. I don't like in
Mm-hmm.
my day job. I wouldn't say I'm like a meticulous planner by any means in my
Mm-hmm.
day job. But when it's something I really, and I'm not saying I don't care about my job. I do like my job, but something like this, like a passion project, a personal project, because I was the person that sort of brought this to them, and I got them on board, and they were excited about it. I really wanted to do it right, and I had like a vision,
Yeah.
and
Okay. Cool.
so that part of that was like, we're going to map this out. Podcasts are hard. You know how it is. Yeah, I know you've had another show
Yeah.
in the past. Like
Yeah.
it can be hard if you don't stick yourself, if you really don't iron it out and say, I'm going to do it, and this is when I'm going to do it. And we've had to schedule. We're not perfect. We've had to bump, every now and then. But
Yeah.
just having, especially early on, we probably recorded before we released our first episode. I think we had recorded our first 10 before we ever dropped an episode. And that
Cool.
helped a ton, like in terms of just like baking in that gap of like,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of it already out of the way before we even started releasing
Yeah.
episodes.
That's cool. It, like gives you like a nice head start or buffer just to
Mm-hmm.
so if anything, may need to take a week off or whatever the case may be, like
Or
you all
even,
are
yeah, if
good.
we had to take a
Yeah.
month, like we're still like 2 months ahead on recording. So if
Wow.
like for
That's
some reason,
cool.
like if someone had a really bad emergency or something come up for a month and you just couldn't do anything, like we've afforded ourselves that kind of gap with the planning. So I'll say that to anybody out there who wants to do this, one, you should. If you want to do it, there's nothing stopping you from doing a podcast. Like it is
Right. Exactly.
but there are a lot of things that can get in the way of you of doing a good podcast, and most of those are
Hmm.
yourself. And you can
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
take steps
Exactly.
to do that, So to
Hmm.
get yourself out of the way, and it just takes time. It's like
Yeah,
anything, practice.
and that's why like a good thing. Like I guess I'm trying to focus on like personal growth because I feel like when it comes to with personal growth, like vulnerability is like a key part of that. And so
Hmm.
like I want to be transparent with my audience that like it's not going to be perfect. And I think that's what held me back on my last podcast because like I would try to be a perfectionist when it comes to the audio, when it comes to the video and all this other stuff. And I get too much in my head,
I
especially
feel
being
that.
like the only person doing all that stuff. It just kind of, before I even like sat down to record anything, I was drained just because it's like the whole, like,
The
just,
mental of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So now I'm just not flying by the seat of my pants because, like I said, like you're all like the structure of your podcast has really inspired me to, like you said, iron everything out. And so I'm gonna I got all my episodes planned, but I need to get it all on a spreadsheet and then
Uh,
like, have it accessible for, say, if anybody, I'm talking with someone and they want to hop on, I'm like, well, I got this here if you want to pick an episode and we can go from there. So like you all
and
have definitely inspired me, man.
and everybody has their own systems too. Some
Right,
people.
right.
It's interesting. I've talked to because I was inspired by a lot of people from this network called the Glitter Job Podcast Collective. They're a bunch of queer podcast creators who do a lot of media podcasts, and
Yeah.
and I know some of the reason I know those. One of their podcasts is Walloping Web Snappers. It's a Spider-Man podcast that I listen to, and it's hosted by
Cool.
two buddies who I met through the Power Rangers fandom.
Oh,
And so
cool.
that's how I was familiar. I was just familiar with them, and then when they started doing the Spider-Man thing, and then that kind of grew into this little podcast collective that they got with other people. But like, so that's what inspired me to do
Mhm.
my show. And then and some of them have been on our show, and like they've seen like our spreadsheet and stuff, and they're like this is like like they were impressed at how planned out it was. And because I just thought in my head, like, you guys have to have it just all, so everybody does their own thing, everybody does it
Yeah, yeah,
differently.
yeah,
Like
for
there's
sure.
no one size fits all approach to this stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be comfortable doing things their own way. But for us, for kind of like knowing for sure like this was going to be a year-long thing, and we wanted to bang out one episode a week, and really lock in and commit to that, like this was the right way to do it. And so now I will say, I don't know if I do another podcast ever, if I
Once
don't
this is
think
done.
it'll look different.
Yeah.
The playing for that one will look different than it has for this one. So that's the fun of adventures like this. Everything changes
Yeah.
after you've learned everything.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, and honestly, I mean, despite everything, all like the hardships and whatnot and the shortcomings, it is a cool journey, man. Like, especially, I'm still coming across people, who not like people like just random people coming up to me like, oh, listen to your podcast, but a friend that I haven't seen in like a couple years or something like that, who I'm friends with on Facebook and might have like listened to the or clicked on a link that I uploaded one day and
Mhm.
I see him in the store and he's like, oh yeah, I checked out your podcast, man, this X, Y, and Z. And it's just really just like, damn, you never really realize who's listening or whatnot, because
Mhm.
I tell people all the time back then, it was like I was just talking to a wall, so it's kind of, it's like it's fulfilling to hear that it's reached some people and touched some people in different ways, so
Yeah, that's
it wasn't
awesome.
all bad. And also I kind of wish I would have kept up with like the simplicity of like my first few episodes, because I was just like in a Kroger parking lot and had a little shotgun microphone in my car, man, just recording the first episode talking about Thanksgiving.
Hey, it's like it's funny what you think, what you look back on and think was bad or rough or whatever, and then you kind of look back and like, you know what? I knew more than I thought I did.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I enjoy like this aspect of it now too, just being able to like remotely get in touch with people and just have conversations over shared interest. And yeah, like this is honestly for me like what it's about.
yeah,
I'm
100%.
I'm an introvert, so I'm coming out of my shell more, especially like
That
if you would have met me like a few years ago, a completely different person. Like meeting more people now is like a goal of mine. And, this is a good way to do it, be honest.
No, I'm happy to have met you through Slate, of
Yeah, saying,
course, and
yeah.
like it's been, you seem like a cool guy. And I'm the same way, man. I was until I was like I mentioned earlier. I think I was a full time sports writer in a past life. And if not for that though, I was very introverted before
Oh
that.
yeah.
And that forces you very quickly to not be.
Oh yeah.
Because I was always a writer though, like that was like my passion, growing up. I knew I wanted to be a writer of some capacity, and I just kind of floated into journalism. And guess what? If you want to be a good reporter, you have to talk to people.
Yeah.
Really, that's what forced me into really kind of coming out of my shell a lot, and it for the better. I mean, it was the
Yeah.
greatest, honestly, the greatest thing that came out of that job for me was it made me a more extroverted person than I
Yeah,
was
that's
going
cool.
into it.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be able to tell, to be honest. You seem very cool and down to
Oh, no,
earth.
a lot. Like, they get, like, I think the only people that maybe would even think of me that way are people that I knew way back,
Mm,
that I don't even talk to now, people that I don't even
yeah.
really associate with now. So, which is
Okay.
weird. It's funny, like, how that works.
Yeah, I get that. And I still sink back into my shell depending on the event or circumstances. And we may be around a new group of people and I don't know them. And
Mhm.
so they're talking about different things that I can't relate to. So I kind of just play the fly on the wall just to kind of stay safe, essentially. So, but
You're analyzing, you're taking it
yeah,
in,
yeah. Exactly, yeah. So it's like my safety mechanism, essentially. Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, we can go ahead and wrap this podcast up.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, like I said, I appreciate you having me,
Yeah,
Malcolm, and
man. No
having
problem,
Slade
dude.
too previously, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to continue listening to what you do and how you're helping people and helping yourself. I mean, it's a cool concept. I love the idea for the
Yeah,
show. I
thank
think it's
you.
a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like still one of those things where I'm like, is it okay? Listen, do people understand it? But I guess eventually, once get the ball rolling more, and more episodes out there, people will grasp the concept, and it'll all speak for itself.
Totally.
So that's a wrap on our Morphin adventure. A huge thank you to you, Joshua Moore, in helping us decode the more phenomenal history of one of the greatest teams in pop culture. Whether you're battling the real life Rita Repulsa or just trying to level up your own stats in life, remember you've got the power on your side and no one is going to take you down. If you've liked this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe, rate us, and check us out on YouTube. And remember, leveling up isn't always pretty, but it's always necessary. Keep grinding, stay humble, and keep building your hidden stats. I'm Malcolm Sherrod, and this has been another episode of Hidden Stats Podcast. I'll catch y'all in the next one, all right? Peace. Appreciate you, Josh, man.
Yeah. No, thank you again, man, for having me. And it's always fun to talk Power Rangers and